Over the past week, there has been mounting optimism that the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission will approve a spot Bitcoin exchange-traded fund. Some prominent crypto investors like Real Vision's Raoul Pal and Skybridge's Anthony Scaramucci believe the ETF will be approved before the year ends, while others believe the much-awaited announcement will be delivered in January 2024. But one thing they all agree with is that the announcement will be great for Bitcoin prices. Everyone, from the bulls to the bears, agrees that once the approval comes through, thousands of institutional investors managing trillions of dollars will come aboard, giving Bitcoin a much-awaited price push. Over the past few days, we've featured videos from some of the biggest short and long-term Bitcoin bulls. In today's video, we have an interview featuring one of the most prominent and consistently bearish Bitcoin bears. But Gareth Soloway is only a short-term bear. In the long term, he is bullish like the rest of us. Soloway, a popular technical analyst, has seldom had a bullish prediction for Bitcoin since he first became bearish in 2021. Though Soloway believes Bitcoin will perform impressively in the long term, he has been repeating sentiments that unfolding macro trends will negatively impact Bitcoin and possibly push prices down to $10,000 or even lower. So, has any of the bullish ETF optimism around impacted Gareth Soloway's price predictions for the world's largest cryptocurrency by market cap? The short answer is yes. Soloway is now predicting a massive upside move for Bitcoin in the short term as soon as the SEC approves a spot Bitcoin exchange-traded fund. The renowned technical analyst and swing trader recently had a discussion with Kitco's Michelle McCory, during which he gave his updated short-term, unusually bullish predictions for Bitcoin. Please stick around to the end of the video for Soloway's updated price predictions as well as his analysis on newly established support and resistance levels. But before that, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notifications bell. Thanks for your support and enjoy the video.
And what we really saw was when we had that fake news that hit about the approval where Bitcoin jumped from about 27,000 all the way to a high of 30,000, what that made people recognize is that there's going to be significant upside when the spot ETF gets approved. And so what we saw was a lot of short covering and a lot of buyers coming into the market. And essentially what we're doing is we're rallying Bitcoin higher going into this approval, which means we're factoring in that news. And so what's interesting here is you'll probably get approval by year end or early in 2024. If Bitcoin is still up here, you may not go higher. It may be already factoring in the approval. And that's, again, what we're seeing in the charts right here. In general, it's very possible it could be a sell on the news. And depending on how high we go, I just draw everyone's attention to NVIDIA last quarter, right? Last quarter, NVIDIA going into earnings was $400. It rallied up, and on earnings, it opened at 500 and change, and then it sold back down to 400. So you have this kind of tendency for psychology within markets and investors where they start to get excited about news and they start buying and buying and buying. But once the news comes, there's kind of this natural letdown. And that's, again, what we could be seeing on Bitcoin here. So let's just say that it does jump. And I think initially you'll see this positive reaction, this kind of momentum trade jumping in. I would take this high from 2019 and connect it through the bull market lows. And there's this beautiful trend line. You can see how it connects right through these lows perfectly and right through these lows. And that gives us around a target potentially. This would be my max upside of about $47,000. But again, what I would be doing there is I'd be looking for it to fade that and actually expecting a bigger pullback off that level. Halving is a great fundamental factor within Bitcoin that is important over the longer term. But if you get such a run up on this news, like let's say on the spot ETF where it pops up immediately, I think it doesn't matter about the halving. You'll still see a pullback on the charts. So I think, again, price is the predominant factor here. And if you get to these levels or as high as 47,000, there will be people that got caught in the bear market decline that were even buying as high as the 40s, 50s, and 60s in Bitcoin back in 2021. And they will be happy to get their money back and they will cash out. And I also think that a lot of these institutions that have ETFs have probably been accumulating for the last couple months, knowing that eventually approval will come. And so there may not be as many buyers for the spot ETF as you think.
Soloway has predicted that Bitcoin could reach a high of $47,000 per coin if this rally continues, probably before the SEC's announcement of an ETF approval. However, he does not expect Bitcoin to go much further after that. Although he has switched from his usual bearish sentiments, the popular technical analyst is not going full-scale bullish like we've seen with some other Bitcoin and crypto investors in the past week. While some are predicting a 70 to 100% upside move on the news of approval, Soloway is predicting a 68% move from the previous $28,000 level and a 36% move from the current price level. However, like others, Soloway is certain that the SEC will approve not one but several spot Bitcoin exchange-traded funds between late this year and January 2024. But this is where things get really interesting. According to Soloway, even if Bitcoin climbs to $47,000 next year, he is not completely discounting more downside moves later as we head into next year's halving event. Let's get back to the video as Soloway talks about the possibility of downside moves for Bitcoin if there's further economic decline in the United States.
Yeah, so that's still on the table. Although, again, you have to say that the action in Bitcoin has been tremendous right now. What I'm curious is once we get this news out that the spot has been approved and that news is behind us, what's the next narrative to drive price? Is it the halving? Does that play into effect? And then ultimately, what happens if the stock market goes down 35%, like I've been talking about? At some point, fear and panic will take over, even in Bitcoin holders. Remember, there's a lot of people that hold Bitcoin, like myself, that also have big stock portfolios. And if at some point I'm down huge, do I start to panic and start selling everything? And I think that's the worry that could drive us back to 15 or even lower if we get really in a bad space within the overall asset markets. So we have to just let the charts speak for themselves. And if we look at the Bitcoin chart, we've broken above this previous high right here, right? This was right around 31,500. So as a technician, I have to respect that. And that level now becomes support. So if we pull back, that's actually a buyable level now around 31.5, give or take. However, it would be very, very concerning if we started trading back below that. So this level is almost now the line in the sand on a bull case. You have to hold this level. If you start trading below the 30,000 level, for instance, you then start bringing into account maybe going back to 25. If 25 breaks, maybe going down to 20 and then to that 15.7 low. So right now, the buyable level is 31.5. Let's see if that holds on any sort of retrace. Let's say we really get in a bad space within the equity markets and everything else. I do think that there is ultimate demand for Bitcoin. I think the digital gold aspect of Bitcoin is slowly being adopted more and more. It's in its infancy at this point, but I do think that if you look at max pain, where the most people would be washed out, where bottoms are created, I do think that that would be right at that 10,000 even number. And I would be buying like crazy if we got down to those levels again. And I do think, again, now that you're seeing people like BlackRock's CEO starting to talk so positively about it. Granted, they're talking their book. We have to be recognizing that since they're bringing this ETF to market. But I do think that the big money out there is starting to accept Bitcoin, and that's the beginning of it becoming its own asset, just like gold. So if you're someone who just is not going to look at Bitcoin for the next 10 years, then honestly, anywhere in this range, I think is good. I do think it's north of 100,000 within 3 years. I do think, again, it has much more higher levels that it can achieve as well. So obviously, entry is nice to get. So I would say if it pulls back to this 32 to 31.5 level, that's where your accumulation zone. But again, the key is always don't invest more than you're willing to lose. You just never know about any asset out there. So just be careful. If you talk to a lot of Bitcoiners and maxis, they're telling you $1 million. I mean, I think I'm more realistic, looking at the market cap of gold and how Bitcoin is slowly growing into that. I think down the line it matches gold, but I don't think in the next 3 years it probably gets to those levels just yet. So I think 100,000, give or take. If we just want to talk about maybe that next level, I'll just show you guys this chart here. This is our weekly. So let's zoom out on our weekly. And if you want to just find a trend line that kind of tells you, simply take a trend line from the last bull market high to these bull market highs in 2021. And then if we kind of zoom out, we can see where that level is. And again, if we extend that out and just keep on running, you can see it's starting to approach $100,000. So again, that would kind of be the ankle or the angle that I'd be looking for that next target to be.
How does Bitcoin react to more liquidity in the markets, to a panicked Fed that cuts rates and maybe has to even inject more quantitative easing?
So I think the key is going to be this, is that longer term, the more money in the system, the better for Bitcoin, the better for gold, all of those assets that are kind of anti-inflation or do well under inflationary circumstances. But I do think that if the Fed gets in a pickle and you see all assets collapsing and they're cutting rates because it's a mess, it's Armageddon in the economy, then you could see that sell-off occurring at the same time. Remember with COVID, when COVID hit in March of 2020, gold sold off and Bitcoin sold off. So you have to remember that panic is panic. It's the biggest emotion we have. It's the craziest, the most intense. And that if we did have that scenario, you could still see Bitcoin dip on that news.
Instead of his usual completely gloomy and deadpan bearish predictions, Soloway has given us quite a healthy dose of bullish predictions. He is certain that the ETF will be widely adopted by hundreds, if not thousands, of rich investors who are clients of several of the firms that have submitted their applications to the SEC. He is also appreciative of Bitcoin's growth and how much popularity it is gaining even among core traditional finance players like BlackRock's Larry Fink. Plus, it's healthy to examine both sides of the issue so you can make better informed decisions. What are your thoughts on Soloway's interview? Please drop your comments and observations in the comments section below. Also, ensure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. Thanks for watching.